I mean, as a financial advisor, the worst thing for people to be in bankruptcy is because of medical bills, because they can't afford it, but you can't not afford to have insurance. Insurance is there for a reason. It sucks when you can't afford it, but it sucks really bad when you don't have it and you can't afford it.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Traveling Therapist Group. I am so happy to present these two guys, Michael Mandarino and RJ Martin. They're both insurance brokers. So one specializes in international digital nomad travel and the other specializes in domestic. So I brought them both in to just kind of give you a presentation around, what insurance brokers can do to help you as a digital nomad and also answer any questions that you guys might have. So we have some questions that were already brought to us beforehand, but if you have questions, if you're watching, let us know. And these guys are here to answer anything you want to know.
Yes, perfect. Hey, thank you so much, Kim, and welcome everybody. Hope everyone's having a good holiday season, getting ready for the Christmas season as well. My name is Michael Mandarino. I've been an insurance broker for 20 years. I was an expat for 14 of those years over in Germany, 5 years active duty, and then 9 years as a civilian. So, as a investment advisor working overseas, I realized it's got to be something different than what the local nationals, and in this case, Germany, had to offer. So I did stumble upon a great organization called the International Medical Group. And I just want to kind of spend some easy time, especially one thing that COVID has opened up is the ability to work from anywhere, especially on Kim, with your group, with doing Zoom meetings. I mean, that's a typical across the board. If anything good came out of it, it allows entrepreneurs to do business from anywhere. So what I'd like to do is just kind of show where Arj and I kind of work really well together is I typically only focus on international travel. So if you're going overseas, it's number one, or if you are overseas and you're coming to the United States. So I just want to do a quick screen share. Our quote system is so easy to use, and it should not stop you from wanting to go and travel overseas. So, Kim, can you see my screen? So this is just, for instance, we got a 35-year-old female. She wants to start traveling on the 1st of January, and she's going to travel for a full month. And again, this is a link that we have prescribed, really easy, from the United States. They actually want to go and work in Ireland for time. And it really doesn't matter where you're going, except if it's on the do not call list. So their country residence is United States. However, their primary destination, we're going to go, I'll pick somewhere more exotic, maybe the Bahamas. So just hit see prices. And again, this is as simple as looking at this. And this is the same thing if I were to work with them individuals, I'd give them these quotes. And you can see how inexpensive a $50,000 policy really is. If you want $1 million coverage with a $0 deductible for a whole month of travel, that's really only going to be about $58. So again, this is short-term travel, typically less than a year. Now, if you get the bug and you want to travel long-term, our next policy is at least 6 months a year. So you have to be overseas for at least 6 months and 1 day, and you then can travel for more of what you consider our comprehensive medical. So again, we'll go with that same 35-year-old female. And the nice thing is, if you can get this insurance, in a lot of cases, it's extremely competitive across the board. So in this case, the area of residency, we're going to go overseas and we're going to be in the Bahamas. Area of coverage, we want to include or exclude. The United States is the most expensive coverage in the world for the most part, but we want to say worldwide coverage, or if they're not going to come back to the United States, then you can see that excluding. So I'm just going to click there and just kind of see the prices just to show how easy it is to really sign up. Okay, so Bahamas can't do it. So let's pick something, let's say Austria. 12, again, this is going to be 12-month country. And when it comes to any type of insurance, and RJ will talk to you here momentarily about his plans is what type of deductible. So you can see here we have our $250 out-of-pocket deductible. In this case, your most inexpensive policy would be $238 a month, and that would provide what we would consider a really robust medical plan. Now, for my expats are going to do it long term, they love to go with the gold plan. And there's reasons for that. And I won't get into it, but that's something that, specifically, if you click on it, you can see, okay, well, what is a gold plan? What am I getting from that? Well, you come up here and say view details, and you go to overview, and it's going to show what is the real main difference between some of these plans. And then I'll come here, benefits. Again, this is all really available. You can see lifetime limit, $1 million, treatment outside the US. Again, these are all things that we can work directly with you. We do take major credit cards for the payment. For the travel insurance, typically there's no underwriting questions for the travel. However, keep in mind, if you have pre-existing conditions, those are some things you need to really think about. So, and next I want to introduce RJ Martin. RJ and I have been friends for, RJ, about 7 years now, I think?
At least.
Yeah, so RJ, I owned his policy. My daughter owned his policy. He offers a great low-cost solution for those who are medically sound, who are in good health, who just want to make sure they cover the basics. And they just, man, it's such a great program. He's with U.S. Health Advisors. He's one of the regional supervisors in the Sarasota, Florida area. And he's going to steal the thunder, but he can insure you anywhere you travel in your van across the United States if you plan to just work. And again, RJ, I'll turn it over to you, but thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Michael. I was looking at one of the other questions that was in there. Is it better to go through a broker or ACA website? So a little bit about me. I am appointed with a private company, U.S. Health Advisors, but I'm also appointed with United Healthcare. United Healthcare is our parent company. And so I can look at plans in United Healthcare's offering. I can look at plans on the ACA websites, and I can also look at a private plan, as Michael was talking about, that's medically underwritten. And I can actually refer to any of those plans if I desire or if someone wants to. So for me, the question about going through a broker or an ACA website, sometimes with a website, you're not dealing with the expertise. That's my wheelhouse. I've been doing this for 9 years this month, in fact. So I know exactly what I'm looking at. I can describe it pretty easily and help someone at least understand the coverage exactly like Michael was talking about. I don't want to forget to say this as well. Michael was talking about how competitive his rates are. My son works for Norwegian Cruise Lines, talked with Michael because he was interested in getting some of those policies. And my son is very skeptical when it comes to things like that and said the rates with Michael's plans are the best that he's seen. So it's a really good endorsement from my son because he's going to look at everything and find his way around that. And definitely keep talking to him because he needs some investment help too, Michael. So back to the health insurance traveling state to state. One of the plans I write that is in the United Healthcare network is also a PPO plan, and it does work nationwide. We write in 35 different states. So we'd start in your home state. That's where your home base would be, but it doesn't matter whether you move from Florida to Texas to Maine to California, anywhere you go, you would still be within the network, and the plan does not change to an out-of-network plan. That's very different than a lot of the ACA plans because a lot of those are just specific to the state. And I know people who have residences in different states and they buy two different plans because that's the only way they're going to work, and they have some medical issues that require them to do that. So as long as you could go through a medical underwriting process, and usually it's going to be something chronic, ongoing medical condition, then you could get approved for that plan, and you're never going to be canceled for it as long as you keep paying your premium. So really big benefit to that plan. And also, I'm the agent. So our company works on a very specific model of a dedicated agent where people have my cell phone, they have my direct contact information. Yes, HIPAA regulations, would protect a lot of information and claims and things like that, but I can make a lot of phone calls and get information for people when they have questions.
Oh, great. Yeah, because a traditional health plan is basically like in your location, those are going to be your in-networks, and then you're stuck with that. So if you're a digital nomad, you literally have to come back to that area and get treatment there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And with this plan, you would not. And you could find a doctor anywhere in the United States. Additionally, there is a piece of our plan that provides like a teledoc service and that doesn't cost anything too. So you'd have free access to a doctor who could prescribe prescriptions, answer medical questions if you can't get in touch with your general practitioner in your home state.
That's so awesome. Okay. I'm just looking to see if we have any questions in the Facebook group. If you guys have questions for us, let us know because they're here to answer them for you.
Kim, I did see another question that says, how do you receive health insurance if you're living or working internationally? So you really have two ways. One is getting it before you leave. So
Okay.
if you are, like in RJ's case with his son, he's going to be traveling in January. He buys a policy now. You instantaneously get your certificate. You can print out your insurance cards. So you're going to have that. But really, one of the most important things is understand your coverage. We have with our travel insurance, like when it comes to hospitalizations, if it's something you already knew you're going to have, it's not covered. But if you fall, break your leg, you have to go through surgery. If you have time, we typically would say, make sure you're calling back and talking to one of our nurses. We'll get you set up in the best hospital. In some cases, we'll arrange for you to pay. But in a lot of cases, you pay out of pocket first, and then you do the reimbursement. My wife and I have had to use the coverage in Mexico before, so we're familiar with that.
Wow.
Second would be is if you're already overseas, as long as you have that overseas address, you can be that American living in, let's say, Germany. You have your German address, very easy to get. For your expatriates here living in the United States, this is where RJ and I really overlap. Is a few of his plans, correct me if I'm wrong, RJ, they can't insure someone who's not documented, who doesn't have a green card, where we can insure, as long as they have a passport here in the United States, we can insure your expatriates that are here long term. And we have
That is correct.
Yeah.
As long as they have an address, I guess.
Yes, as long as they have their passport and a U.S. address, we can insure them. And I work with RJ because there are some stipulations where they had been denied 3 times. So I know RJ and 2 other companies that always deny. It's just because they don't work with undocumented immigrants. So in this case, it's also good for your family members. So let's say you have a counselor has, let's say they're married to a South American family and the parents come in and, typically they don't have coverage. So we can help get them coverage for that, vacation here visiting the United States.
There are some specifics where I can insure someone who's not a citizen, but it's more broad. They'd have to be here at least a year. They'd have some established medical records in the States. So his plan would be the much better way to go with that.
It's a good bridge plan. So we work
Absolutely.
it. So I would get them that 6 months to 8 months. And typically RJ is going to have a better plan after that 1 year once they've established residency.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So if somebody's living, like a United States citizen is living in Germany and they just go over and they're like, oh, I think I'm just going to stay here for like 6 months. They could contact you and then get health insurance over there, or would they be better to have like a domestic plan and just supplement it? You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder, like, how do you navigate that stuff if you're kind of moving all around in and out of the country? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, so typically if they're going to be in the States longer than 6 months, they absolutely need to work with RJ. And then we would cover them. We have either 1 month, 1 week. We also have multi-trip where they're covered up to 45 or 60 days at a time. If they are overseas for more than 6 months, then they can actually get our international plan, which will cover them while they're overseas, and we'll cover them when they're back stateside. But again, it's that they really have, they're strictlers on that. It needs to be over 6 months. Some of them have some stipulations where only 30 days is covered back in the United States. So again, those are things that we would work with each, and just like RJ, the reason you want to work with a broker is we're going to walk you through it, making sure you fully understand everything that entails.
Michael, you mentioned 6 months and 1 day. Is that cumulative or is that at one time?
It would be one time. So
Okay.
yeah, if you're going to be overseas in Spain, and that goes right along with the IRS standards too, as well, as far as how you claim your income overseas. Do you get tax credits for living abroad? Typically, it's more than 180 days. You have to be. I won't get into that. That's not my expertise, but I just know that those are some ideas that we've seen.
Interesting. So then that would be, I was going to say that'd be more your cup of tea, RJ, with that, or?
Sure. If they're in the United States longer, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Michael, can I ask Michael a question?
Yeah.
With that coverage, if someone is traveling in and out, they can pick it up and drop it whenever they need to. Is that correct?
It is. So, and just to kind of give you an idea, so I've had Americans who have applied for our coverage. It's a really good program that if they can prove they have, even if it's a hotel room where they have their card sent to, that they're living in a hotel in Bangladesh as an example for 8 months a year, they're better off to keep our program year round. Again, there has to be that stipulation that they're not, and they do look at passports. They see when you're entering and back and forth. So you don't want to get around and try to beat the system, but our plan is international. It does include the United States as well.
Wow.
And kind of piggybacking on that, sometimes you hate to pay for two plans, but sometimes it's difficult to get in and out of a plan just mid-year. So, if with looking at the premiums he was quoting, that's pretty good. They're really good premiums for the kind of coverage that they offer, and really, insurance is about the risk, right? You want to cover that risk. So, if you pay a couple $100 to cover your risk, it's really worth it.
Absolutely. Because normally it has to be like a milestone, right? Like you're moving or you've changed jobs or something like that to change your coverage. But with this, you can literally just come in and out of the plan whenever you want to.
Right.
That's cool.
And we do have some, when they're coming back in, let's say they are moving back to the United States, there's also in some of the policies like a 14-day coverage period where then you can make sure you call RJ and start getting covered. But again, with insurance, it's underwritten. You have to go through your medical exams again or medical questionnaires. And, like anything, insurance is a risk. And RJ's company, like many, they don't like risk because they want to be able to be in business. Money. So in that case, they may want to still keep RJ's plan, go overseas for a year, still pay for that plan. So that way they don't lose coverage.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And there are ways to keep my plan and maybe lower the premium, even if you're not expecting to use it for a while, but raise the deductible way up and then drop the deductible back when you come back into the States. There's no underwriting with changing your deductible, so that could be a really good option.
Oh, that makes sense. So literally they would call you and say, hey, I need to change my premium.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when RJ says he's your agent, he's the one answering the phone. He works with you. He's, awesome. Like I said, I was one of his clients for a while there. So
yes.
Wow. That is amazing. So we had some questions. Let's see. I think we kind of answered this. I'm heading to Europe for a week and need some sort of international health insurance. Thoughts? We kind of answered that. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think the most important thing is just getting it for $20, $30, $40. Some states or some countries, they won't let you leave if you owe a hospital bill. So especially if you're going skiing, you want to make sure there's additional sports riders because you can only imagine, but we hear more, I'm in insurance, same with RJ. He has sports stories to tell. And, if you break your leg on a mountain, you need to get emergency airlifted off. I mean, that's $25,000 at a minimum. And good luck trying to leave without, and of course, now with technology, that follows you. That's not just going to be all that happened in Europe. No, it follows you. It may take a year or two, but they'll have law firms here in the United States that will follow you. So, I'd just say it's worth paying for the coverage. Go to Mexico or the Bahamas for you saw the kind of nickels on a dime as far as really what it costs. I think we showed that earlier. It's not expensive at all.
Yeah. Somebody actually just posted in the Facebook group. They said, I heard you talking about plans or rates for people who are in general good health. What about if you have a few prescriptions? I generally don't need to go to the doctor very often, but I do have a few prescription medications.
Yeah, prescriptions aren't always considered a pre-existing or a sign of an issue. What we look for are some of the major things: cancer, heart attack, stroke, cancer within 10 years, I should say, maybe a surgery that has not been healed or released, something like that. So high blood pressure, cholesterol, anxiety medications, which a lot of people take, it's more about the major chronic ongoing issues. And like Michael said, an insurance company is kind of going to run the clock forward and see what might happen, with that. And they're betting on, someone being a good risk. I can answer those questions. Again, doing this 9 years with the same company, I can certainly answer those questions a lot easier one-on-one, and it would be a private conversation. It's not recorded. None of that stuff's written down as well.
Yeah, and on our side, we do offer like pre-existing conditions, but there's limits. So for instance,
Okay.
for our gold membership, you have to have your plan for 24 consecutive months, and then you're covered up to a total of $50,000 lifetime maximum. So again, they want to make sure they take the risk off the table as much as possible. So for those that have pre-existing conditions, you disclose it, and there are opportunities where it still can be used, especially if it's more on the emergency side of that pre-existing condition.
Okay.
To kind of go a different route, sorry,
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
do have another plan that's generally available outside of open enrollment that is a guaranteed issue plan. And the reason, I would always assess someone's risk to make sure it's going to be a good fit. But as long as someone understands, the way the policy works and then I can make sure that I give them all that information. Yeah.
What does somebody do if they have pre-existing conditions? Like, I'm just curious, like, how do they get coverage? I know this is off topic, but just curious.
So I know for ours, they'll offer the insurance, but they'll exclude that pre-existing condition. So,
okay.
so like a diabetic, for instance,
Mm.
you're not covered on the diabetes, but if there's something different, so there's different things that can be covered when it comes to that. So yeah, that's kind of the sad thing. And obviously that's the reason why we're in the insurance business. You want to make sure you get insurance while you're healthy. And that goes for disability, life insurance. I mean, there's reasons to make sure and I am a financial advisor. So that's, this is a small part of my business.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I recommend if someone is traveling or they do have a marketplace plan, ACA plan that they want to keep, that they need to keep for some reason, there are supplements. You can add some addition, and there is no underwriting with those pieces. So you can get some accident supplements. You can get some, some other things that would go along with it that are really going to help you, cover your risk and maybe even get you back to your home state via air ambulance or something like that if it's going to be close enough. So there are some ways to work around that. It's just having that conversation and, understanding what someone's needs are.
And the same person just is commenting. She said, "Thank you. For myself at this time, I'm looking more at being in the United States and different states. What happens if you have an insurance policy through ACA and you're in a different state when you need medical care?" So we kind of talked about that earlier, but maybe addressing it from that question, that side of it.
It really depends on the policy, and it's going to be based on the way the policy document is written. There are some states that don't offer any out-of-network coverage, except in the case of an extreme emergency. So, if you have some kind of major injury or some kind of major illness that, is a quick onset, I would think COVID might even be one of those, then it's going to kick into that emergency situation where it would provide out-of-network coverage. The deductible would be higher in that case, but at least most plans do have something in place for that.
Yeah. And Karen, we were talking about earlier, RJ does have a domestic plan that makes you in network in all the states. He actually walked me through it on his computer. We put in a random zip code and it showed like all the in-network providers in that state. So he does have a plan for that if you don't have a lot of pre-existing stuff going on. Yeah. Yeah. And he, again, can walk you through it if you want to meet with them to talk about your options. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I tell people, don't disqualify yourself. Let me, help you with that.
And one of the things I thought was really neat is that, one of my closest friends from high school, her and her husband have been expats for, I think, 5 or 6 years now, traveling overseas. And, eventually I showed them what I had to offer. And now they've been clients for 3 years. And again, they're bloggers, they're out researching it. And, that's the thing, same thing with US Health. I mean, you're not going to find in most cases a less expensive plan to get the coverage you're trying to get. It's just, that's when you work with RJ and I, we have a great team of products that we really feel are really going to be fitting.
So, Michael, one thing I wanted to ask you, so if you have one of these plans and you're in Europe, can you use it in any country in Europe, or is it just certain countries?
Yeah, great question. So as long as you're overseas, you can use it anywhere. Now, there are exclusions. I think you saw US, Taiwan, some of the major carriers, but you can say worldwide, and it is covered worldwide. And, if you're going to be staying, let's say you are going to live in Austria for a long term, then you actually can work with us and we can set up a direct bill to your hospital or your primary care physician. So you don't have to worry about, but I'm guessing a lot of your folks are going to want to be more that a month here, month here, month here, and our plan will cover that as well.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. That's great. Okay. We did have some other questions here. I'm living in different cities up and down the East Coast this year. Do any of you move from state to state this way? If so, what do you do for health? So what do you do for health insurance? So we were just talking about that. You would reach out to RJ and he's going to help you find a good plan that'll put you in network in all the states. So you don't have to worry about, because a lot of us, I don't know, my out of network coverage isn't great, and if something happens, it's probably going to be expensive in a different state. So his plan is a good answer for that. Definitely. Maybe you could speak to the idea of coverage in state versus out of the country. Okay, we kind of already talked about that, the differences in those. Some other questions we had. I didn't post them all in here. What are the requirements for health insurance in other countries? How do we find out? We kind of touched on that. Is there anything else y'all would want to add about that? Like, how do we find out?
Yeah, so some of the countries do require the visa. They do require to have medical coverage if you're going to be over there, or for family members that are bringing people here. We have the certificate that shows this is good for those countries, and that's typically what's required to be able to go and live overseas. Is having some type of an insurance certificate, normally 100,000 minimum. We say you should be insured for up to $1 million.
Okay. So if somebody has a visa, they could just apply for health insurance in that country, however the health insurance works, or is that not a good idea?
Well, it depends. It really depends on how long they're there. So every country is different. So, and that's where, for me, being an expat in Germany, once I left the military, I did have to find, and they have social programs, and that's where you realize social versus private. I went into a doctor's office with private insurance. I called him up at 9:30. I was there at 10. There's an entire waiting room.
Wow.
And he looked at me and said, well, you're a businessman. You're a private owner of insurance. Come on in. And I almost felt guilty, but that's socialized medicine versus private. So, and I did have a German plan for a long time. And when I searched it, this international medical plan it blew it out of the water. It saved me, almost like $100 a month. So, but if you're there long enough, there are some programs that, you can potentially fall into, especially if you're going to be working as a social worker and you may have lower income, you may be able to qualify for some of those plans, but every country is different. And it's not easy to just go into a country and just get health insurance. Just kind of like RJ, right? You have to be here for at least a year. And
wow. Okay. That's so interesting. So literally if you have your health insurance, Michael, and you walk into any country, any doctor in any country pretty much is going to apply, or is it still the same process? They would call you, you would try to find somebody in network with that policy in whatever the country is. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So we have on-call nurses where if you have time, for instance, let's say you sprained your ankle and you have time to go see the doctor, call us. We're going to get you in the best hospital, but it doesn't matter where you go. You can choose any hospital. We just are going to be there because we help negotiate the rates. If you don't use us, just know that you'll pay out of pocket. And then, 4 to 6 weeks later is when we get your reimbursement done. And again, it's a process. So they also have to make sure there's not fraud. I mean, that's the crazy part with insurance. There is a ton of insurance fraud.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank
you.
But,
and I always recommend, if you're overseas, I had a client she felt that she wanted to self-evacuate herself back to get medical treatment, and they wouldn't pay for it because they would have preferred to fly her from Bahrain to UK and get better service there in UK versus coming back here to the United States. So always recommend to get pre-authority before you're going to try to travel as well. It's just kind of a small disclaimer.
wow. Okay. Yeah. So I know I bought travel insurance before, and we always add on that medical evac option or
repatriation.
Helicopter evac. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in case. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I bet that's expensive. Okay. I think we've answered most of these. What if I want to live in the United States part-time and the other countries as well? What is the best policy in that case. So you guys are saying you could have both policies, or the 6 months and 1 day is the determining factor for that stuff when you go back and forth or try to decide which one's the best.
Yes. And, working with RJ, he'll be able to get them quotes. We can see, is it worth to keep RJ's plan and just get travel insurance? The difference between travel insurance and medical insurance is travel insurance is going to cover your accidents. If you really want to have a comprehensive plan that you could go see the doctor, you can do your wellness visits, you're going to be there long-term, then you'd want to apply for long-term coverage, because that's going to be more traditionally like what RJ is going to have here in the United States.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've actually answered all the questions. I see some people in the Facebook group. If you have any questions, let us know. And if you're watching this on the replay, post your questions. I can email these guys, or you can email them and ask your questions. And I think what I'm gathering is it's best to call you guys and just have you walk the person through their unique situation and figure out the best type of policy for you. And you guys work closely, right? So I guess RJ, you guys would refer back and forth.
Yep.
That's great. So is there anything else about that we should know, or that you think people should know about health insurance, or researching it, or anything like that?
Speak first. I think working with a broker is always important, whether it's RJ, whether it's myself, whether it's somebody else. But most importantly, don't go uncovered. I mean, as a financial advisor, the worst thing for people to be in bankruptcy is because of medical bills, because they can't afford it. But you can't not afford to have insurance, because insurance is there for a reason. It sucks when you can't afford it, but it sucks really bad when you don't have it and you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because now you're going to have bills just piling up.
God, what
Agreed.
A nightmare. What a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think that's it. There's people watching. Does anybody else have a question while we've got them live? I saw one person come in that I know is getting ready to go to Mexico for 3 months. But I think she's got it covered probably already.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. You guys, I've posted their phone numbers and how to get a hold of them if you have a situation you want to call. I know it's the beginning of the new year, so a lot of you might still be trying to figure out what you're going to do for your health insurance. But if you guys want to reach out to them, they work closely together. So if they figure out that their plan isn't the right thing for you, they'll help refer you to the other one, and they'll be able to work it out for you and get it straight, whatever you need, even if you need 2 plans, if you're going to be traveling back and forth. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. And I hope you guys will reach out to them if you need anything, y'all in the group.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks
Kim.
for the opportunity, Kim, and God bless you, and Merry Christmas,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks for answering all these questions.
All
And
right.
good to see you, RJ. It's been a while.
You too, buddy. Yeah.
Thanks,
We'll
brother.
catch up. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy holidays, you guys.
You too.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.